What's up, guys? I'm Noah Cooper with Athletic Body Systems. Today we're going to be talking about rep ranges for building muscle and strength. And this is something that's been on my mind a little bit lately because in my own training I've been experimenting with different rep ranges and just kind of trying things and using different rep ranges that I usually don't use. So it's been kind of an experiment, and I'm going to give you guys some advice based on my own experience with that. And I'm just going to teach you guys how to use different rep ranges practically in your own training. A lot of people will ask, like, how many reps should I do to build muscle? There used to be some generic advice that said lower reps with heavy weights was how you build strength, and then more moderate reps like 8 to 12 was for building muscle, and then higher reps like 20 to 30 was for endurance, and there really wasn't a lot of overlap between the three. Current data and just looking at what other people are doing in the gym has kind of confirmed that that's not really the case. In truth, it really doesn't matter what rep range you use for any given exercise. You can build as much muscle with a 5 rep set as you can with a 30 rep set, as long as you take those sets to failure or very close to failure. Now, I'm going to give you some practical advice here because there's a little bit of nuance. For example, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to use low reps for things like isolation exercises. I don't really know anybody that's doing like, a heavy set of 5 for lateral raises, or doing like sets of 4 on curls. I mean, some people do, so I'm not going to say that no one does that, but in general it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. I think that you can control the weight a lot better with isolation exercises if you're using sets of like 10 to 15 or something like that. For example, in my own training, I have found that I respond really well to higher rep exercises, particularly for triceps. I find that I can just control the weight better. It feels better. You don't have to worry so much about like holding the heavy weight in your hands. And then on the flip side of that, compound movements like bench press, squat, deadlift, usually it makes more sense to go for kind of lower reps, like sets of 5 or 6 or 8 or something like that. That's generally what most people do. The majority of my training has been done in like the 6 to 8 rep range, particularly for the big compound movements. In general, I don't really go above like 12 reps. That's just how I've trained for so long. But lately I've been kind of experimenting with higher reps. I've been doing all of my pull-ups with body weight only, trying to really get some good clean reps, and I've been doing like sets of 15 on those. This is all just anecdote, but like for me, I feel like I can really perform better on things like hamstring curls if I'm doing sets of 15 to 20. Bicep curls, generally, I don't want to go below 8 reps. I've been trying to do like sets of 10 or 12. Pull-ups, I'm really happy doing them body weight only and trying to go for more reps. Even bench press, I've been venturing into like 10 rep sets. Squats, I did a set of 12 with 225 the other day after doing a set of 8 with 250. So I've really been kind of trying to branch out in my training and just getting in more reps. I feel like personally I hit a wall faster if I try to stick to a lower rep range like 6 to 8. I feel like it's easier for me to progress with higher rep sets than it is to progress with lower rep sets. Now that's just total bro science and anecdote. There's no like research to back that up that I'm aware of, but that's just something that I have personally noticed. So if you guys are like, consistently training in like a lower rep range of like 6 to 8 reps, maybe try giving some higher rep ranges a thought. You also have to keep in mind what it is you're actually training for. All right, some people have the goals of getting stronger. They want a stronger 1 rep max and they want to lift that heavier weight. So if you're trying to get a stronger max, then obviously you do need to spend a little bit more time in those lower rep ranges with heavier weights, but you don't have to do all of your training that way. For example, what I do is I'll normally do a heavy top set whenever I go into the gym. My first set of any given exercise will be the heaviest. I'll go for like 4 to 6 reps, and then after that I'll do 3 more sets, higher reps like 8 to 10, something like that, which those aren't really super high reps, but you see the idea. So you don't need to spend a whole lot of time doing those low reps, but you do need to get in that strength work in those lower rep sets if your goal is to maximize strength. If you are a beginner, you'll notice a lot of basic beginner programs will have you doing things like 5x5 or 3x5, doing sets of 5, because that kind of gets you in a little sweet spot to where it's not too heavy, but it's heavy enough that it's challenging, and it teaches you how to lift a heavier weight and you can get stronger faster. So I'm gonna say I think beginners should use a little bit higher reps than that. The reason for that is beginners don't really have the coordination yet. They don't really have mastery over the movements. And so trying to get people to lift heavier and stick with a little bit lower rep ranges when they haven't really learned to control the weight properly and they don't really have a solid mastery of the movement yet, I think it's just gonna be a better idea to practice with a little bit higher reps, sets of 8 to 15 or whatever it is, just to help people understand how to move properly. Beginners are particularly susceptible to form breakdown, especially when the weight gets heavier, because you've got to think, if you're, for example, if I'm ripping out like 135 on bench, that's pretty easy. I can hit that for like 12, 15 reps. I don't know, haven't tried it, but if I'm ripping out something like that, it's going to be a lot easier. I don't have to hold a super heavy weight in my hands. I can really just focus on pushing harder without, having to worry about squeezing the bar super hard and making sure my wrists are stacked and all that stuff. There's a lot more, mental effort and a lot more overall effort you have to put into stabilizing a heavier weight. And I'm not saying that your training should be easy and that you shouldn't learn how to do these things. I'm just saying if you throw all of that onto a beginner and make them lift like heavier sets of 5 and stuff like that, it's going to kind of deter them a little bit and it's going to get them more easily frustrated. I definitely know that there are some people who try to load up weights that are way too heavy and their form is just kind of awful. At the end of the day, you've got to have form mastery before you're ready to move on to those heavier weights. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to advocate for like high rep sets or anything like that, because there's a ton of value in like sets of 5. Like I said, the majority of my training has been done in the 6 to 8 rep range, but I also learned how to perform the movements properly. And at the end of the day, that's what all of this is about. You've got to learn how to move correctly. And then once you understand how an exercise works, it's really up to you at that point to pick a rep range that you think just works for you. Something that you enjoy. Like I personally enjoy like sets of 8 for squats and bench press, stuff like that. I like sets of like 20 on hamstring curls. It's really exercise dependent. You have to find a way to perform an exercise in the way that you enjoy, but you've got to learn how to do the exercise properly before you can really assign a rep range to that exercise in your own training. One final thought before we wrap up here. I do think a lot of times people think that they're performing exercises better than they actually are. I think if you drop off maybe even just 10 pounds on an exercise that you're doing and then really try to perform the movement correctly, you may find that it challenges you way more just because you're doing the exercise with a little bit better form. I think sometimes venturing into those higher rep ranges can teach you that you've been performing an exercise incorrectly. I think that's kind of what's happened with me with my tricep isolation exercises. I found that push downs just feel a lot better with like sets of 12 to 15. Maybe that's because I was trying to go too heavy before. But again, this is all anecdote. At the end of the day, pick a rep range that you enjoy and stick with it. Train hard no matter what rep range you're using. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. I hope you guys have liked this video. If you want to see more videos like this, as well as exercise tutorials and full workout videos, please go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on the gains. Follow me on Instagram at Athletic Body Systems, and please check out my website, athleticbodysystems.com. All right, you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.